I'm fed up with Thetis. I'm fed up with traitors. And I am not going to let them get away with this. And I'm going to say as such. Welcome back, friends. Today we're continuing Project Dragon Age with a pretty special episode. This video diary is going to be covering the actual ending, the actual conclusion of Dragon Age Inquisition. That's right. This week I finished the Trespasser DLC.
It's been 2 years since the Inquisition proved itself an organization everyone in Thetis could respect.
You act as if you're the solution to every problem. How long before you drag us into another war?
That time is over. Damn it! We save Ferelden, and they're angry. We save Orlais, and they're angry. We close the breach twice, and my own hand wants to kill me. Could one thing in this bloody world just stay fixed?
Let's get into it. Trespasser was a really big deal in terms of the story of Inquisition. Now, if you watched my video from last week, I actually enjoyed the conclusion, the ending of Inquisition quite a bit, but I can see how, if you are a big fan of Dragon Age, how ending on a big cliffhanger like that with no next chapter in sight is probably not a good place to be in, not a good feeling to have. And so for me, I liked it because I know Veilguard's coming out soon, right? But I can understand why maybe that had mixed reception. However, I do think that Trespasser leaves you on a much stronger note, right? Leaves you feeling, I think, a little bit more satisfied. Let's see, normally I start these Dragon Age video diary things talking about the story summary, and then I kind of get into the gameplay. It's a little funny because this one was a little bit front-loaded with a lot of gameplay, actually, I think. But we'll just kind of get through the story quickly, and then I'll talk about that other stuff. So, the story. Quick recap. We have a little bit of a time skip, which I think is a really cool idea. We're thrown 2 years into the future after the end of the events of Dragon Age Inquisition, right? There's a council that has been called to discuss the future of the Inquisition. Leaders from Orlais and Ferelden have formed a council along with Divine Victoria. That's her name, I'm pretty sure. That's Leilani's new name, because Leilani is now the Divine. She's the new leader of the Chantry. And they've called us to, I think they called us to Halam Sharal, right? They actually called us to like the Winter Palace again. Jen, correct me if I'm wrong on screen. But yeah, they called us back there to have a council to discuss the future of the Inquisition, right? Before we go in there, we get to kind of meet up with a lot of our friends, see what they've been up to. It kind of appears like some of them have been hanging out with us, but they've had other things to do. This was like a fun little part. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'll come back to this, I think, during my review, but I'll just say that, you know, I mean, there's like 8 companions. I don't want to like go over what each of them were doing, but it's fun. It's fun to see where all of them were, you know, seeing Iron Bull being able to just kind of like live life and have fun with his chargers, who are luckily still alive because of our decisions. That was really nice. Seeing how Cole has met a bard lady and he's traveling around with her, and he seems really happy. It's really cute. Yeah, it was really enjoyable to see everyone kind of like come back together. And it felt like a little bit weird for me, right? Because I went straight from the end of Inquisition right into Trespasser. But I think, you know, something I like to try to do when I'm talking about these video diary things is I try to put myself in the position of someone who was playing these games at the time they came out. And I think if I had been waiting around for like a year or however long it took them to get the DLC out, I think this would have been like a really strong entry point into the DLC, and I liked it quite a bit. When we finally do get into the Exalted Council, we're not in there for long before the thing is disrupted by the slain corpse of a Qun warrior. The Qunari is the race, right? Qun is like the nation, I think. And we discover that the Qunari have started using like the Illuvian, the portals. They used one to, I guess, like infiltrate the palace, and they've kind of made it into the crossroads. So we go in there and we start kind of like tracking them down across a bunch of different worlds or areas, realms, just areas, I think. Well, let me think, because no, some of them are locations like in the real world. There's one that's in like a little elfy place that's in the real world. Is that in the Arbor Wilds? I kind of forgot. One of them is in the Deep Roads. No, is definitely in in our plane of existence. Another one or two happen, like, don't they happen in the crossroads themselves? Because like there's a bunch of like floaty rocks and, you know, an endless abyss to fall down into. Is it in the Crossroads or is it in the Fade? Jen, put it up on screen. Help me out with this recap. Jeez. As we kind of go through and we kind of unravel the Qunari plot, there's a lot of, we can kind of like overhear some members of their forces talking about an agent of, God, the name is like Fen Harel. Is that it? Am I getting it right? Yeah, they talk about like an agent of Fen Harel who has kind of been like dogging them this whole time, mogging on their soldiers, causing all kinds of trouble for them. This is interesting because I think it's pretty clear if you've been paying attention to the game, and you know, especially considering the cliffhanger that Inquisition just left me on, it was pretty obvious this was going to be Solus. So as a shock surprise at the end, it wasn't very surprising, obviously. And it's kind of funny to hear about them talk about like, you know, the agents of Fen Harel, and you're like, dude, that's probably just one guy. It's probably just Solus. And sure enough, you get to the end, and it is. I think I'm glossing over a little bit, but I think this moment at the end with Solus, it's worth just kind of jumping ahead to, because I think this is like the big moment. This is the big expansion or DLC defining moment, is your final confrontation with Solus. Actually, hang on, let me back up. I'm sorry. I'm a little scatterbrained still from playing through this. It's there's just a lot that's happened. While you're kind of chasing down leads, trying to get to Solus, you're kind of gaining a lot of flack from the council members who are like, they're upset that you dip out on the council. They're upset that you seem to be like overstepping your bounds as, you know, part of the Inquisition. They feel like the Inquisition has become like a little bit too big for its britches, a little bit corrupted by power. And I think this is a part of the game where I had a lot of fun kind of like doing the role-playing part of the role-playing game. I really enjoyed like putting myself in the shoes of my Inquisitor and picking dialogue options based on that. I thought that was a lot of fun. It was funny, I think on Twitch when I was doing this, there were some people in my chat who were saying like, oh, I can't believe you would say that, I can't believe you do it. And the thing is, I see where they're coming from, but also I think my audience, that includes you guys, okay, you're picky, needs to understand that the options I'm picking in the game, the options I've kind of done, haven't always necessarily been like, oh, this is what I think is right. It's more, this is what I think someone who's in the position of the Inquisitor would do. I like playing true to character, and I think earlier when I found out about Solus being a traitor, I think my character was very upset. I think like her last final arc as part of Trespasser has been getting just like upset, right? Like, I've done so fucking much for this world, you know? I have gone through everything for them. I have saved them from so much. They have no idea, and they are so ungrateful. And like, in my last final moments, or in the last like quest or two, like, it's really like pissing me off that I'm not getting like a little bit of slack, a little bit of leeway. Like, God damn it. Like, just give me some credit here, right? You know what I mean? And especially I think at this part in the game, right? This is 2 years after the defeat of Corypheus. And so a lot of other players on the board, you know, leaders of Orlais and Ferelden, they've kind of gotten over being like in amazement of me and, you know, being like huge fans, because time has passed, it's been a while, and they're starting to be a little bit more critical. Obviously, like, I'm the Inquisitor, and I would imagine like after saving the world from Corypheus, you'd feel like pretty important and pretty justified in whatever you do for pretty much the rest of your life, you know? And if anyone ever tries to say anything to you, you can always just pull the card of like, I saved the world, shut up, stop giving me a hard time. And I think that's kind of like the route I took as I was going through some of the dialogue options that I had in Trespasser, right? And I think, especially because something that progresses as you go through Trespasser is the anchor starts to act up a little bit more. It starts to seemingly like reactivate, and it's causing you pain. And in that final confrontation with Solus, he confirms like, this thing is killing you. You will die. You're not that far from dying. And I'm not sure if it's hard to tell with this game sometimes, like how much of what other people's actions are because of choices that you've made. I romanced Solus, and I was very nice to him, I think, during my playthrough. So I'm not sure if it's because of that or if he would have done it anyways, but he does save you during a cutscene in which it's kind of like ambiguous what exactly he's doing. But I gathered after the fact that like he basically saves you by taking off your arm so that like the anchor that's spreading up your arm is no longer on you and you can continue to live. And there's a big dialogue moment at the end where you get to choose a reaction to that, right? You get to say like, you get to try to like connect with him on a human level to try to maybe turn him around, to turn him away from this path. Oh, by the way, he reveals his plan. His plan is to break the veil. He's an old god. He's an old elven god. He betrayed the other elven gods and created the veil in the first place, but he doesn't like what's happened since then. He's now planning to break the veil, and he's willing to sacrifice the world to do it. I don't think I mentioned that before. Again, I'm sorry. I'm pretty scatterbrained still, and I'm just trying to get my thoughts up, but that's what these videos are, right? You should know that by now. It's really on you. Regardless of the plot to kill everyone and how evil that makes him, or actually, because of that, I felt like this cutscene at the end was done really, really well, and it gives you a lot of opportunity to kind of like, again, immerse yourself in like that roleplay side of the game, which I think is like the strong suit of this game. That's like the best part of this game, is doing the story stuff. And wow, yeah, I really think it delivered here in the end. It felt satisfying. Like, I've always enjoyed the story of Dragon Age Inquisition. I think it's always been, well, sometimes it's a little cheesy. But I think that's because the cutscenes are like 10 years old. But I've, for the most part, enjoyed the story of Dragon Age Inquisition. But I think especially as it's gone on, especially like in this third act, and a little bit like in the first act too, I think, before you figured out what was going on with like whether or not you were actually the Herald of Andraste. I think being able to put yourself in the shoes of the Inquisitor and really lean in and choose like, what kind of person do I want to be here? How do I think this person would react? And the game gives you plenty of opportunities to like follow through and do that. And I think that's really good. That's exactly the kind of thing that should be in RPGs, right? That really lean on that role-playing side and really have like a fully fleshed out story, which Dragon Age absolutely does. Anyways, in summation, in conclusion, story, A+. Really good stuff from Trespasser, and really, now that I finished, I can say from Dragon Age Inquisition as a whole. The next part of my little reaction guideline here is talking about gameplay, and this has been kind of like an iffy spot throughout the whole game for me. And that doesn't really change here. Once you get started in figuring out like what's going on with this Qunari plot to smuggle in containers of like, I can't even remember what it's called. It's like some explosive oil barrels filled with like, I don't know, like Catlick or Gatlick or Catlock or something. It's like some dumb word. I guarantee you someone is going to like go straight to the comments after hearing this. It's called and it's important in the lore. Anyways, who cares? As you're kind of like going through and unraveling this, it's basically just a series of linear levels. And ordinarily, I do like the linear levels in this game. I do prefer that over the open world. And it sounds like I'm going to be really negative. I'm not. I didn't hate every. I thought there were some parts going through these like linear levels that maybe could have been a little bit more clear, and I think maybe could have been tuned down to like a more casual gamer mode level. This one's like a little bit on me, but also I'm gonna say, like, it's funny, me and Jen were actually talking about this off the air, about how like the way that we feel about like how casual game modes should be. And I think what we kind of came to agree on was that especially when it comes to like story-driven games that are kind of like trying to appeal to not just gamers, but people who like are like really hard on the more casual side, people who are gonna see maybe like videos or TikToks or whatever about like, you know, the dating options, stuff like that, and are gonna be drawn to the game for that kind of stuff. I feel like even on like casual gaming modes, I feel like a casual gaming mode really shouldn't punish you for like not getting really deep into the crafting, right? Like, it's kind of baked into the name. Most people don't even call it like a casual or an easy mode now. They call it a story mode, right? And I think if you're gonna follow through on that that sort of promise of having a story mode, then it should be allowing players to get through just doing the story. This is one of those things, like, you can say it's on me for not playing the game the right way. And I can imagine, like, you know, for people who have been waiting for Trespasser to come out and they don't see Veilguard as coming out as like something that's about to come out in like a week, and they feel like they have all the time in the world, it's probably a little bit more fun. So I can only really give you my experience. So take it for what it is. Yeah, I felt like some of the combat was upped to a difficulty that I think assumed that I had geared myself and my companions up a little bit better, and that maybe I had leveled up a little bit more than I had, and that led to a few frustrating moments. There is one puzzle in particular, I think, in the crossroads, where you have to get a torch into an area that it's really hard to carry a torch into, just because of like weird purple flames around that make you drop things. That had me pulling my hair out, and that was really frustrating. Wait! Hope you all die. I hope every single one of you dies. Oh my god, I just want you all, I want every single one of you to live happily. I just want every single one of you to live so happily. That's what I want. But I think aside from that, like, a lot of the gameplay was in service of the story, and I thought a lot of it was pretty decent. One thing I'll say about the gameplay, I think if you've been watching these, you may have noticed a pattern, obviously, is that I tend to be a little bit more critical of the gameplay and pretty positive on the story. And I guess I want to make it clear for, you know, for the people who've been like returning each week to watch these. As much as I may not love the gameplay, I will say, like, it's not so bad that it turns me off from the game, right? If I actually hated the gameplay, I just would have stopped playing the game. So it's decent enough. I would say in most cases it's serviceable. There's like a few pain points, a few areas of frustration, but for the most part, I just think it's like fine. With a few exceptions. Oh god. None of the commenters on YouTube are going to care. They're going to take that as very negative. That's okay. Leave this in, Jen. Anyways, normally at this point, guys, when I'm doing these kind of like video diary things, I try to think about like what's coming up next. But because we finished Inquisition, the next thing on the list is Veilguard. And I actually have good news for you. Me and Jen just recorded a video about our predictions, theory crafting stuff, about what we think might happen in Veilguard. That video should already be on the channel by the time this comes out, so go check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I think Jen is probably better at theory crafting than me, so hopefully that'll be a lot more fun than the end of these videos usually are. But just to keep you guys up to speed, Veilguard should be right around the corner. By the time this game comes out, Veilguard should be like days away. So definitely, before you go, scroll down, hit the little subscribe button, hit the bell icon. As soon as Veilguard comes out, I'm going to be playing it. Maybe on YouTube. Maybe. That might be something that we do. No promises right now. But we're definitely going to be streaming that. Definitely go follow me on Twitch if you want to see that. And then very shortly after that comes out, I'm going to put out a video here on the YouTube channel talking about like what my initial impressions are. And I think what we might be doing after that is something similar to kind of what we've done with Dragon Age Inquisition, this like video diary series. We're going to be kind of like going through the game one chunk at a time and then making a video about it. So if you want to continue following along with that kind of stuff, make sure you're subscribed. All right. I love you guys. Thanks for coming along with me. I've really enjoyed this. And another thing you're going to want to keep an eye on the channel for is a full review of Dragon Age Inquisition. Now that I've fully finished the game, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to go back. I'm going to actually like explore some of the elements in the game that I didn't really get around to because I was coming up against the release of Veilguard. I'm going to dive a little bit more into that, probably like off stream and like off video, obviously. But I want to collect my thoughts and organize them into a full, actual, comprehensive review of Dragon Age Inquisition 10 years after its release. Why? I don't know. It just seems like fun. And that's what we're about here. All right, guys. Make sure you guys find some time today to have some fun for yourselves. Peace.